Guess who's back? Back again. Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Inside Spurs channel. I know it's been a little while. Apologies. That's my fault. If you're new, it's Andy. All right. But look, apologies for the delay in videos. Life's been a bit mental. I've moved, as you can tell from the background. Still got the 3 shirts up. I'm wearing the Spurs shirt this year. The boys, my friends, all got me this as a housewarming present. It's got a very special name on the back. Alex, which was my dog's name, so good to shout out my previous animal. But look, a lot of people reached out and said, "Where are you? Come back, talk Spurs." And well, I'm here. Please look no further. I'm back, and I'm here to talk Spurs. We're going to talk Thomas Frank. We're going to talk about Brentford at the weekend. We're going to talk about some other things as well. So a bit of a long video. So strap in, sit down, grab yourself a drink, kick your feet up. Okay, not all at once. That was messy. But no, let's talk about Thomas Frank at the moment. And divisive, difficult and toxic is what I would sum up the fan base is at the moment. And that's not a dig, by the way. That wasn't a dig. It's just, I think we're all wanting the same thing, but we're all pulling in different directions a little bit. And look, we all want this manager to be successful. You always do. You don't want a manager to be sacked, because if he's getting sacked, he's not been good enough. And we all want the manager to be good enough. And we're all behind the players still. I know it doesn't feel like that. And I know there's been some booing and things like that. But when you've not won a game in the last 5, it might be more without checking. But if you've not won a game in the last 5, you're in the bottom half of the table. Your home form stinks. The fans are entitled to voice their opinion. As long as it's not abusive and rude. If they want to boo, let them boo. Because you know what? They're paying fans. They spend a lot of money to come to these games. And they're not getting their money's worth, if you know what I mean. Away from home, those away fans are getting their money's worth. We're the best away team in the league, which is hilarious when you see that we're in the bottom half of the table. It's hilarious that we've not won in 5. It's a thing that with Thomas, he came in and said, if you don't take risks, that's the biggest risk you can take. And I loved that quote, and I thought, do you know what? I know that maybe at Brentford was not always easy because, you've got a limited budget compared to Tottenham. The players aren't obviously on the same calibre as Tottenham. I get that. And that's not a dig at Brentford. Please don't think it is. But my thought process was always behind the idea of, well, he'll be able to now expand on what he was going to do. And he said, we're going to start defensively. We're going to get really solid at the back. And we were a very solid defensive side. And, for a while, we were one of the best defences in the Premier League. Now, obviously, definitely not the case. I mean, we conceded, 13, 14, something like that in the last 4 games. And that's not good enough. Yes, okay, you play away at PSG and you play away at Arsenal, but you ship 2 goals at home to Fulham. You ship 2 goals at home to Manchester United, who, watching Manchester United last night, draw with West Ham, they're no good. We smashed West Ham. And that was when we were all right, but we weren't. We're now obviously fallen off a little bit. But in reality, all the while when we had other managers that were pragmatic, it was always that, but we could grind out a win. Okay, we're going to have 35% possession, but we'll grind out that 1-0, that 2-1. Because we're going to be lethal. And okay, yes, look, you've got a Heung-Min Son who's, a golden boot winner. You've got the best striker in the world in Harry Kane. But you haven't got them anymore, so you have to change that method. And yes, okay, we've got some good players at the back. I think Pedro Porro is a great right back. I love Destiny Udogie. I think Mickey Van der Ven and Romero are a phenomenal partnership. And I think Vicario is a good keeper. Please, I'm not one of those who thinks he's awful. But we're also not creating anything on the other end. And look, yes, you're missing James Maddison and you're missing Dejan Kulusevski and you're missing Dominic Solanke and you've got new players coming in like Randall Kolomoani, who's also missed time due to injury, Xavi Simons, and it takes time for some players to settle. But I don't think we're doing enough to help some of these players. A lot of the times when you watch our strikers, they seem to be doing graveyard shifts, running endlessly without getting anything to give them, anything to like substance to hook onto. It's the thing that when people complained about Solanke last year, I said, but he's doing a graveyard shift. What did you want him to do? Dribble past 7 players and smash one in from 35 yards? He can't do that. And I think we do miss Solanke. I think we do massively miss James Maddison. That's my big one is, the player that can drop deep and create. We're definitely missing Madders. And I think Madders would have been fantastic this year. I think Xavi Simons will still be fantastic. I'm not jumping off that hype train. He's a young player that requires time, but also at the same occasion, he's playing left wing and he's playing centre attack in mid, but we're not really getting him the ball because we haven't got the players in the midfield at times to progress the ball to him. Paulinho obviously looks really good defensively, but he's not going to pass the ball forward enough for you. Bentancur seems to not pass the ball forward enough for you. Yes, okay, when you're playing away at Man City, those two are great together because you can just hoof it long to Kudus and let's see what the link-up play from there looks like. But things need to change, and it starts this weekend with Brentford at home, a team that, having lost in midweek at Arsenal, didn't look great, if I'm honest. Set pieces wise, they're very solid, very, very solid. And it's something that obviously Spurs have gotten much better at, is the set pieces side of things. But this is a game that, one, I believe is a must win. And it's also a must play well. I think Spurs, as much as we can win a game and Spurs go, that's great and all, but we're not seeing the attacking patterns. I think now is that time to show, one, we're going to win this game. Two, there's attacking patterns. And there's something to hook onto. There's something to latch onto. There's something to grab to and say, I can put my hat on this to say this is what it could be like going forward and what it will be like going forward. And I haven't seen enough of that recently. So hopefully Thomas turns it around, and hopefully this is the weekend to do it. And I think Spurs need to win this game. Spurs obviously rested a few players in the midweek. Please do not be that person that thinks Mickey van der Ven's been dropped. Why has he been dropped? But then you're also that same person that complains that he misses 2-3 months worth of injury. He's been rotated. They're trying to keep him fresh. They're trying to keep him healthy. Busy winter period that we're in, we need players to be fit, and Mickey will come back into the team this weekend. It's not a worry. It wouldn't shock me if Paulinho's back into the team this weekend. But if you're going to play Paulinho this weekend, then you need to make sure that you've got Pape or Lucas Bergvall next to him alongside Xavi Simons. We can't be having two number sixes in Bentancur and Paulinho who don't progress the ball well enough. We need a Pape or a Bergvall who can progress the ball, who can try things. I mean, Bergvall was getting onto a lot of things at Newcastle, a lot of flex. He played really well, and I hope he does start at the weekend. I think that's the other thing. Too many choppings and too many changes. Now, don't get me wrong, with Mickey, I like that chop and change because that is a resting change. But in the midfield, it's been this continuous cycle of changing players every single game. And it's been good in terms of, you keeping players fitter and healthier, but you're also getting no momentum for these players. So I'm hopeful that you'll see Lucas Bergvall this weekend. I think we've been missing some of those driving runs, and he improves every single time I watch him play, and he does need to start. Xavi Simons needs to start. I know Thomas Franks talked about, he's training really well, he's doing this, he's doing that. But for me, he needs to be playing. We need creativity. He's one of the only creative players that we have. Play him. I think you'll probably see Wilson Odeberg come back into the team. He's shown flashes. Him and Matisse Tell. One of them needs to start because they've shown flashes where they've actually been really solid and we've not capitalised on that momentum. I think you'll see Kudus, obviously, one of the shining sights of our season. But in reality, this is a must-win game for me. I think Spurs will win. I don't foresee it being a very good game, if I'm honest. I want Spurs to play well. I want them to play sexy football. I think Spurs win 2-1. I think we kind of scrape it. It'll be a shame about that. But, I expect to see Jed Spence probably start this game as well. Let's rest a doggy. Let's rest Porro. Let's try and get some other players minutes. So there's that. I think 2-1. Obviously let me know in the comments your thoughts, fears about the game down below. But, moving on a little bit with Vicario. I've seen the Gazzetta dello Sport, that he's unhappy and he wants to go to Inter Milan and he wants that sort of move. I get it. Inter obviously a massive club in Italy. But in reality for me, be careful what you wish for when it comes to Vic. Be careful what you wish for because, I think the keepers that we've been linked to, James Trafford, who has not looked good in the Premier League for Man City. Let's think about Verbruggen, where he just conceded 4 goals in the week. I don't foresee. This is the issue that I have is you want to move on from Vic. I totally get it, but it's quite bright outside. I just said, look, that's very bright. It was raining about 10 minutes ago. But when we think about the goalkeeper position, there has to be a massive upgrade. That's the big thing right now, is that if you want to move on from Vic, I get it, but there has to be a big upgrade. And the names that we're being linked to are not the upgrade. You know, I know some people think Mark Verbruggen's really great and things like that. And I'm not saying he's not, but is he a big enough upgrade where we could do with maybe looking at an attacker or a winger or something like that, that we're looking at a goalkeeper where that hasn't been a main concern. Yes, I get Fulham was a bit of a stinker. I totally get it. I'm not denying that it was a stinker. Keepers are allowed to have a stinker. You know, Donnarumma's save percentage is, what, third bottom this season? I still think Donnarumma's a good keeper. Yeah, people call him a flop is too far. I mean, Alisson's beneath him. You know, I think Alisson's still a good keeper. So I think just be careful what you wish for on this, because he's not a bad keeper whatsoever, and he's not one of the reasons why we've struggled this season. We just need to be wary of that. But look, on at the moment, let's be positive. Let's be optimistic. That's why I'm back. I'm back talking Spurs, because I want to be optimistic. I want to show you that it's not all doom and gloom. It's not the end of the world. Let's get behind the boys. Let's hope for a win at the weekend. And let's try and kick on now. Let's make sure we get through the Champions League. Let's make sure that we build up some momentum. Because you know what? Got some winnable fixtures coming up. Let's make sure we start to stockpile some wins in a row, because there's going to come a time when we might hit a patch where we're out of form again. And we can remember these times where things have been okay. Don't panic. Let's start to build from there. Hope you're all okay. Hope you're looking after yourselves in life. I'll see you all very soon. Talk a lot more about Spurs. Let me know down below your thoughts. And I'll speak to you all very soon. Take care. Peace.